Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to another episode of the General Physical Podcast. And ladies and gentlemen, I know back around 4 weeks ago, it's even longer. I said I'm not going to do these Zoom conversations again. The last conversation that I had was with Levi Marquardt. It was an awesome conversation. But it's just, there's way too many good people around that I have to talk about. It's just easier online. And today, ladies and gentlemen, before we jump into it, of course, if you want to jump into all things kettlebell, you have to sign up for the Leberstock method. You can get started for only $1. You'll find the link in the description. And of course, I use the Pro Kettlebell, only the best kettlebell on the market, period. And you can get 10% off right now. Also, link is in the description. Now, ladies and gentlemen, I have with me an OG. Let me tell you, she's been around when I wasn't even around. So, and many of the youngins, we weren't around. And I have to introduce her in a way that just suits her sophisticated approach to kettlebells. Not only is she one of the most seasoned lifters in the world, she's, as far as I can tell, correct me if I'm wrong, Lorna, 60 plus, right? She's one of the most seasoned lifters in the world lifting. Gentlemen, listen, she's snatching the 24 kg. And not just once or twice or 10 reps or 5 sets of 25 or 10 sets of 5. She's doing it for 100 plus reps. Which means she's a Master of Sport International class 11 times, 8-time world champion. And I'm so happy that I can have a discussion with Lorna Kleidman today. We're going to learn a lot from her. So Lorna, welcome to the podcast.
Thank you for having me. I'm so honored. Thank you, Gregory.
You're welcome. So, Lorna, we always do the same thing with everybody who jumps on the podcast, and that is give us your background. How did you get started with kettlebells? How are you even able to snatch the 24 kg in a way you do? And give us the whole rundown.
Okay, so I'll start. Sometimes I start my story from the beginning of it. Now I'll start it from where I am now, and I'll work backward just as a refreshing way of stating it. So I've been lifting the 24 kg snatch for about 7 years. Still trying to get my numbers. My best numbers were during the pandemic, actually, in 2020. And now I'm trying to actually work my way back to those numbers. But I've been in the sport for about 20 years now. And prior to that, prior to learning about kettlebell sport, in my first competition was in 2007. I was a gym class junkie. I literally was addicted to cardio classes. So I started with high impact aerobics, then, step class, then I started jogging and then boxing. And prior to my getting into the gym classes, which I must have been about 28 at that point when I started the gym. I had really bad asthma growing up, so I couldn't play. I played sports, but I was terrible because I'd always have to be sidelined. I couldn't breathe. It was just horrible. I couldn't keep up with my friends at recess, like who were running around. I couldn't do any of that. So I was not athletic as a child. But then when I started taking these classes, I slowly, over the course of many years, built up my lung capacity and my endurance. And then when I started boxing a few years later, that took my conditioning to a whole nother level. So jumping rope and running stairs and hitting pads and doing all kinds of, it was just, I miss that. It was incredible conditioning. Boxing was the best thing, and it put me into a really great physical shape. And a trainer who I met at the gym said, why aren't you lifting weights? Why are you doing so much of this cardio in classes? And I said, well, I want to stay lean. I want to stay in shape. And for me, who was then in her late 30s, that's what I thought it required, as many people do, as many women do think to this day that, they need to do 2 hours of cardio. And I was in the gym 14 hours a week at least, and 4 hours every Saturday.
Wow.
It would take.
Can I quickly ask you, Lorna,
Yeah,
because
yeah,
I'm trying to wrap my head around it, and then
yeah.
please keep your thought and continue from there. But you're touching on the fact that women are stuck in this idea of 2 hours of cardio. Can you please give us an insight of why that is? What goes on in the head, and why are our weights so terrible, so to speak?
I guess I started with cardio and I enjoyed the camaraderie of my peers in the classes. It became like a family dynamic, where you make friends and then you get to know the people. You go to parties with them, you go out, you socialize with them. So for me, it was not only it was the music, it was the energy, right? It was the instructors who I loved, and then it was you're getting a good sweat on, which always makes it feel like you're working hard, right? So, and
That's
you're
good.
burning a
Yeah.
lot of calories. So you're burning a lot of calories and you're making friends. And there's a group feeling like, that if somebody, there's always that team of people in the front of the classroom near the mirror who are the better ones, who are the
Yeah, yeah.
prettier ones, who are the ones who are doing the exercises beautifully. And maybe they had a
Yes.
dance background. I had a little bit of a dance background too. But, I was in the back. I was younger than the women, much younger than the women in the front, but I was emulating them because they had the stamina and the energy that I didn't have because I still was overcoming asthma. So I think it's all of those factors that kept me coming back to those classes every day for a decade. And then when this
Wow.
trainer said, "Why aren't you doing weights?" Well, weights seemed a little bit boring. Weight seemed like an isolated activity that didn't bring me that camaraderie. And it was like, okay, are the weights going to give me, the ripped abs and the lean look that I have now? And he was like, yeah, and you're going to waste a lot less time. I was like, okay, why don't you teach me weightlifting?
Mhm.
So this trainer started to teach me weightlifting, but I was still doing the cardio. So now I
Wow.
was like adding to
All
my plate
in.
as opposed to, so I was
Let's
all right,
go.
so now
Yes.
I'm
Yeah,
doing
yeah.
2.5 hours because I
Wow.
wasn't I wasn't ready to give up the cardio,
Hmm. And the
because that
community,
was
right? And the community, which,
right. And
Mhm.
mentally I still loved it. And all
Yeah.
right, so over the years I was lifting weights. And then this same trainer said, um, I heard about this thing called kettlebell sport that's come from Russia and it's in the States now. It's endurance weightlifting. And I think you'd be good at it. And only
Interesting.
because this trainer said to me, I think you'd be good at it because you show up, you work hard, you have good, whatever for, just the quality of movement. And he said, I think you'd be good at it. I was like, okay, tell me more. So he introduced me to my first coach who lived in San Diego at the time. And I went out to see that coach in San Diego and did like a weekend intensive. And then this coach said that he was going to be hosting an IGSF, which was one of the organizations way back then. In
Hmm.
2007, I'm hosting an international competition, IGSF, in San Diego in 8 months. Do you want to compete? And I said, okay, if you believe in me and you think I can do well, he said, I think you can. So back then, there was only IGSF and IUKL, and women were only allowed to do snatch.
Yes.
Only
Valerie,
snatch.
yes, Valerie shared this with me.
Yep.
He said, right?
Yep. And
It
only
was this.
16 kg.
Mhm,
So that's the heaviest that women could lift. So what did I do? I trained for snatch, 16
mhm,
kg.
mhm,
There were no other options. So I started with snatch because that was the only option. And
mhm.
I did well. And
What time was it, if I may ask? 2000 what?
2007.
2007.
This was 2007. And
Yes.
I,
Yes.
and I did well. And then I thought, okay, let's see what else I can do. And so that started my road to competing consistently. Um, And then I started to go into one arm long cycle before there was the two arm jerk or long cycle. And then, so I've seen the whole evolution of the sport, but that was my beginning was asthma and then getting into the cardio classes, slowly developing my lung capacity. And then meeting this trainer
Hmm.
and then slowly understanding that if I'm going to lift weights and put on lean muscle, then after about a year of doing the weightlifting, doing some kettlebell work and doing all the cardio, I understood that I needed recovery days. For the first time in many, many years, I understood,
Mhm.
oh, I need recovery. Otherwise, I'm
Mm.
not going to perform as well. I started to, because with cardio, you don't get that since you can go for 2 hours every
Yes.
day and like you don't
Yes.
really
Hmm.
feel any effect because it's just different. It's a
It's
different nervous
different.
system
Exactly.
stimulation.
Hmm. Hmm.
So then with the weightlifting, I was starting, oh, okay, I can't do this again today. I should probably rest. So
Right.
I learned the hard way, you know,
But
how this
at
all
least you learned
how
it,
this
right?
all works. Right.
So
Right.
just let me get this straight. You started 2007. It was, let's say, like the typical way of many women getting into cardio classes, enjoying the community, the camaraderie, which is awesome. I mean, a lot of people say they join, in our case, they join for the course, but they stay for the community, right? Because it's,
Yeah.
you're able to exchange with people in your age group or whatever that may be, and you're making friends or whatever. This is awesome. And then so this one guy or this one coach tells you, hey, I think you'd be great at kettlebell sport, which is 2007 is already advanced. I mean, I talked to people when it was around the 2000s, 99,
Right.
2001 with Pavel, Steve Carter. We're going to talk about this a little bit, my sensei and stuff. But so you were a little bit advanced. So you got exposed to GS, so Getaway Sport or Kettlebell Sport. You got exposed to this side first, right?
Yep. Yes.
And so just because this trainer said, I think you'll be good at it because you have the discipline, right? You're
Right.
showing up, you're putting in the work. I think you got this. That's why you went down this road, right? It's one of those situations that reminds me again of why it makes sense of what we do. You're a content creator as well. And that is just, I remember somebody once told me, if you have a class of 1,000 people and you share something and only one person gets it, you've done your job.
Hmm.
So it might be that whatever you might say, nobody's listening, but this one person, like in your case,
Hmm.
you're like, oh, you think I got this? Okay. And now, like decades later, you're still going strong because of
Right.
that situation, right? So, how was that situation when it was when women were barred from doing the other lifts? So what I'm trying to wrap my head around this was it like, okay, listen, ladies, you're not cut out for this. You only do the snatch and let the heavyweights, let the big boys handle the heavyweights.
Yeah.
But what was the idea behind it? And did you question it? Did you walk up to these people like, bro, what's the reason? What's going on?
I didn't because I didn't really think about it. I love
You
snatch. I
enjoyed
love
it.
snatch. I
Hmm.
still do. So that was my lift. And then when I was watching the men doing the jerk as part of biathlon or doing the long cycle, I wasn't thinking, why aren't there women doing this? I wasn't thinking that at that
Hmm.
point.
Hmm.
And then when women started doing the one arm long cycle, there were the old school men who were like, oh, you have to be careful of the breast tissue and women shouldn't be doing this. And so then it became the conversation of, okay, women are doing one arm long cycle, they should be careful. And then there were groups of women who were saying, hey, no, let us do the two arm long cycle too. We can do it. It's our body, it's our responsibility, it's our, and then it became the push to do the double bells, which has been tremendous to witness.
Yes. So
Yeah.
was it really like, hey, we care for you, ladies. This is not good for you? Or was it rather,
Is it ever really,
listen,
but Gregory, is it ever really like that? Come on, no, no. The answer is no.
yeah, I got it.
The
We
answer is
care for
no.
you. You know what's crazy? You know what's so crazy is, and I just have to drop this because it fits so well.
Yeah.
Sometimes we drop a reel of my wife when she does a heavy lift, like she lifts a heavy
I,
bell, or she
yeah,
does a heavy jerk, or a heavy windmill, whatever, and then we film it, and then I drop it on the YouTube or on the channel, and I just say she's
yeah.
stronger than you. I can't tell you. I'm ashamed of myself. As a man, I'm super ashamed of my gender. How many men chime in and be like, no, she's not? Come on, guys. I'm not joking, I even had a conversation with a kettlebell sport athlete who were criticizing us for saying, why are you saying that she's strong? Yes, but she's not stronger than most men. I'm like, she
I
is
can't
though.
speak to your gender. I can't.
It-
I will not.
right?
I will not. I will not.
This was so
I
crazy.
will
I'm like,
not.
why, guys?
Yeah.
Why,
Yeah.
dudes? Why can't you
See,
just, first of all, I mean, you know how content creation
I
YouTube
do.
works,
I do.
right? With a little bit of these, tricky titles, you want some eyeballs, we get it.
That's right.
But
Oh,
at
you're
the
gonna
end
get
of the,
you'll get it. You'll get the debates, you'll
most,
get the
most
conversations, you'll get the
definitely,
feedback. Yeah.
most definitely. But at the end of the day, I mean, if you have, and let's jump a little bit into your development into the 16, 2024, it is, if we look at it from a pound for pound perspective, from a relative strength perspective, you being a woman, lighter weight, not having enough muscle tissue, not having the bone density and the usual strength of a man, being able to snatch at 24. Of course, it's not just weight. We know when it comes to the snatch, it's also strength. Endurance, we get that. But at the end of the day, from a relative strength perspective, we can say,
Mm,
yes, she's stronger than you. Here's the key. It doesn't take anything away from you, man. That's not the
right.
issue. But
Right.
we have to acknowledge the fact, okay, so you think you're strong enough? Do it as well, right? So how was your
Right.
development then from 16, 20, and 24?
Well, so 16 kg, I fulfilled all my goals. So I did snatch and then I did biathlon, but at that time biathlon was with a single bell. So it was jerk one side and then snatch. And then I did long cycle. So I did all of that. Again, single arm long cycle because we didn't have double yet. And then I progressed to the 20 kg, did the same with the 20 kg biathlon, snatch, long cycle. And then I took about a year and a half break because I felt like I had achieved all my goals in kettlebell sport. Like I did 16, I did 20, and I was satisfied and I achieved my goals. So I would still snatch or do some kettlebell lifts about once a week just to keep the neural groove going in case I ever wanted to come back. And I enjoyed the process of training. And in the meantime, I was working with a trainer doing strength and conditioning twice a week. So I'm working with my trainer. Maybe I'm doing a little cardio on my own, and I'm doing a little bit of kettlebell sets just for my own satisfaction, my own fun. I had no intention to go to the 24 because I honestly felt like I would put on too much muscle because when I lift heavy, my body does put on muscle. I put on muscle in my legs, my hips, my butt, my traps. Some women don't. Most women don't. I do. I tend to hypertrophy with heavier weights if especially if I don't dial in my food.
Mhm,
I will gain. I can always tell in my pictures, when I was doing the 24 and when I wasn't because, my legs will get more
mhm,
muscular.
mhm.
So I felt satisfied and I'm like, no, I don't need to do the 24. I'm good. So in the meantime, I was one of the teachers for ICSFA, IKSFA, who my dear friend Alexander Kaysen created back in 2009, 2010. He's since passed away.
Mm.
Dear friend of mine. And he brought together all of the best coaches that we know today: Sergey Rudenev,
Oh,
Denis Vasiliev, Ivan
oh,
Denisov, um, um, Alexander Kostov,
oh, Kvostov. Oh, love this guy.
Merkulin.
Oh,
So
oui.
all of these great coaches and athletes, before they either went off on their own and created their own thing or, retired or what have you, but all of these coaches were together in
Wow.
one group. And we went on a trip to St. Petersburg, Russia, and did a week-long training camp, and it was just extraordinary. Steve Cotter was there as well.
I think he shared this with me.
It was,
That was the moment when he went to Russia. Yeah, yeah,
he
yeah.
went to Russia.
You were
Yep.
part of that group.
Yes. There
What?
were there were many of us. There were about 35 students and about 10 coaches of various levels,
You've written
including, like I
history
said,
there. Yeah.
it was a once in a lifetime experience, and it
Yes.
was
Yes.
absolutely incredible. So I was teaching once in a while with Rudenev and Alexander uh, Kaysen at the ICSFA events, and so we were taking a break at one point, and this is when I was quote unquote retired. taking a break, probably not going back to kettlebell sport, but I was involved in the community. And during a break, I don't remember the context, but Sergey Rudinev said, well, the professional females lift the 24 kg. And at that moment, when those words came out of his mouth, I knew I had to go back and lift the 24 kg. And so I came back. And that's when I came back and I started working my way back up to start with the 24 kg. And
What
that's been
what did these
about 7 years.
what did these words trigger?
These were that I'm not finished, that I'm not really a legitimate lifter in this sport because I haven't done 24 kg.
Wow.
So I had to come back.
That's the amount of this. That's discipline. That's, I
Well,
think,
it's just, I don't know if it's
high
discipline or it's
standards.
just neuroticism or it's just, you know,
Yeah,
but he said those were, if I hadn't heard those words, it would have, I don't know what it would have
yeah.
brought me. Probably something would have brought me back, but not that way. Not in
Interesting.
that immediate. I was like, oh no. Now I have to come back. It's like there was a part of me that wanted it, like, oh yeah, now I really have to do this. There's more I have to do. And then another part of me was like,
Oh
oh no,
my
there's more to
God.
do.
Just as a quick, I did a quick prep, dabbled with it. I did it in 2020 last year, the IKO online. I
Yeah.
got with Dennis's IKO. I did a master of sport with 100 snatch,
Wow.
with the 32 kg.
Wow.
But I had to drop the weight after 7 minutes. I couldn't. And the
Yeah.
crazy thing is, in 2024 November, at Steve's World Championship, the IKFF Championship, which was sanctioned under the IKO, I got my master of sport, candidate master of sport, with the
Ken,
32
yeah.
kg because I was
He was
doing a
there and
five.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah, I was doing a
Okay.
5 minute set, right? And I was doing the online participation. And in 2024, I was like, I felt unstoppable. In the last minute, I did a 25 RPM with a 32 kg.
Wow.
I was going nuts. And if it would have been my MS set back then, I think I would have crossed the 100, 110,
Threshold.
probably. Yes.
Yeah.
And so then in February 2025, I had a gruesome prep again. Dennis gave me a few inputs, said, hey, because I was prepping for myself. Then I had the conversation with Dennis, and then I asked him, which I'm going to ask you the question too about your prep. And he said, well, my prep is like this. I'll go back to the 16, 18, 20, 22, 24, 26, 28. And I'm like, what? He's like, yeah.
Yeah.
And then you do blah, blah,
Yeah.
blah, blah, blah. I'm like, oh my God.
Yeah.
So I
Yeah.
did, I did it. But I think I was asking a little bit too much of my body, and my dad passed away end of January,
Uh,
3 weeks after Steve Carter passed, which was
oh
was
God.
crazy, yeah, crazy. And then when I stepped up to the plate online, it's not the same, but at least I did
Yeah.
it.
Yeah.
So I felt the first rep, bell goes up, and I knew first rep, I'm like, I'm not. This is gonna be the hardest set of my life because I want to put the bell down right now and go home.
Mm.
Every inch of my body, I had to struggle to get to the 100 reps. And
Uh,
funny thing, because I was doing sauna like 3 days a week, I did some weight cutting and got below. I got 69.7 kilograms, which
that's
meant
light.
a lightweight. So I was able to do less reps to get the MS, right? And I'm like, oh, cool.
Right.
And
But
then once the bell goes up, I'm like, oh my God, this is going to be amazing.
yeah, yeah. It's a
It's
fine line
crazy.
between losing weight to make a certain weight class and feeling like crap
Mm,
and being heavier and stronger. But then I think it's okay if you're going for a rank, like
mhm,
because you have to reach a certain number, right? So you're
mhm.
just competing with yourself or you're competing with that
Exactly.
number. But if you're going to a competition where you know who the lifters or you can surmise who the lifters are going to be in the weight classes, then it's a judgment call because like for me, if I gain weight or if I want to be a little bit heavier and a little bit stronger and more comfortable, then I'm going to be competing against women who I probably will not beat,
Mhm,
especially in the world championship. So I need to stay in my weight class and then hopefully
mhm,
I can win. No
mhm,
guarantee,
mhm.
but it's a tough judgment call.
And what were your best numbers? You alluded to the numbers, so I'd like to get some of your numbers from the 16, 20, 24. What
Well,
numbers
my
do we?
best numbers ever with the 24 snatch is 169, and I did that three three or four times back in 2020, and that was for online competitions.
Three or four, so
I
three
did
or
it.
four times you
I made that
achieved these
exact
numbers.
number about three times in different one. I think once was training, and one was a WKSF online competition, the World Championship in 2020, and one was another online competition. So I was able to reach the threshold of 169 three times in 2020. And since then, I'm trying to get back. So my closest performance was in this past April at Jeff Butterworth's gym in Massachusetts, and this was 157. So I'm getting there. I'm getting there just this past couple months ago, and that felt really good.
And for everybody listening and watching, it's hard to imagine it if you haven't experienced it, let me tell
Yeah,
you.
yeah, it
It's like,
is.
all right, so okay, I mean it's a high number, but listen, if you
Yeah,
spend time under that thing, the the conversations that are going back and forth inside your
yeah,
mind. And
yeah.
and, and I remember when I was prepping for my candidate master of sport, and Steve told me, Gregory, you're going way too fast. You have to
Hmm.
slow down. So I was aiming for a 14 or 13 RPM, which then finally gave me room to breathe because I was like banging it out and almost died. And he
Yeah,
said, "What are you doing? You
yeah.
gotta calm down." So I'd like to get a little bit of your strategy, but guys, just listen. 169 with a 24, that is
Yeah.
insane. And
Well,
mind you, right? For those who don't know, it's a 10-minute set. That means you're only allowed to switch hands once. And
yeah,
if you put that bell down, the set is over, right?
yep.
So before we jump into your strategies, I'd like to pick your brain a little bit about your prep. Is there something, how do you go about it?
The training in the months before a competition,
Yes, exactly. Yes.
that's well, throughout my lifting career, I work with a strength and conditioning trainer once a week. So that's not much bell work, but it's barbell,
Hmm.
it's squats, it's deadlifts, it's cleans, it's dumbbell stuff and
Hmm.
conditioning. I do the rower or do the ski or things like that. For the
Hmm.
bell, I don't just start back from 16 or a lightweight and then build up, linearly. It's kind of a hybrid. So start back with a lot of interval sets, 20 kg, 24 kg intervals with rests in between. And then I'll start building up the volume with the 20 kg, 22 kg, slowly with the 24, right? To get back to the volume with the 24 kg. So it'll be more of integrating the intervals. And then like every other week, I might do a long set with
Hmm.
16 or 20 kg.
Hmm.
Long set meaning you know, 12 to 14 minutes or 6 or 7 minutes each arm, but at a moderate pace,
Yeah.
right?
Hmm. Hmm.
So, not a crazy pace, but let's get in the overall time endurance
Hmm.
with a heavyweight,
Hmm.
I'm sorry, with a lightweight. And
Yeah.
then we'll go back to intervals, maybe little bit longer intervals or shorter rests, or maybe a 24 kg 1 minute on 1 minute rest at a very high pace, something
Hmm.
like that.
Hmm.
And then over the course of the months, we'll go from intervals to then creating longer sets.
Mm.
Yeah.
Is it broken a little bit into pieces where you say, all right, so 3 months out, 4 months out, when do you start your official prep?
I don't know official prep, but I don't know, it's always feeling
You're
like
always
an official
prepping.
prep to me. Yeah, yeah. I don't know official
Always
prep, but
ready. Yeah, yeah.
but
Okay.
yeah, but I tend to, so my coach is Alexandra, and she's over in St. Petersburg, Russia. Oh no, she's in St. Petersburg. So
Hmm.
Alexandra, who's Dennis's ex-wife, she's my coach.
Ah, okay.
She's a
She's in
very
Russia.
she's in Russia, yeah.
She doesn't live in the US like
No.
Dennis. Interesting. Okay.
No. So she's in
Okay.
Russia.
Yeah.
And she gives me my programming. And then, once in a while I'll say, hey, I'm feeling really fresh. I'd like to do a test set today, or I'd like to do, and then, so I give my input, but mostly I follow her programming,
Mm-hmm.
and it tends to work the way I'm mentioning now, and
Great.
we're just building up the volume and getting back to the 24.
Mm.
Yeah.
One interesting strategy that I've heard from not just the people that I talk to and the great coaches and great athletes that I've had on, but also from the literature is two things. First of all, tapering, where you're like, okay, so what do I do? What do I do like 1 or 2 weeks before the competition happens? Then you have the typical prep where it's like GPP, SPP, and then competitive phase, then post-competitive phase.
Right.
And also one thing that I followed was, but of course I wasn't the standard, but not touching the 32 until the the competition set. And if I'm touching the 32, I'm not doing a full set. In your
Hmm.
case, you
Hmm.
said sometimes you felt fresh. Does that mean that you said, all right, today I want to do a test drive of the 24 and see how I end up? Did you use the 24, your competition weight regularly, or how did you go
Yes.
about this?
Yes,
Oh,
I
nice.
I don't yeah, I've done the taper thing uh in order to go into the competition feeling or being very fresh, but uh for me I like to know exactly what it feels like to do an 8, 9, or 10-minute set many times prior in the weeks prior to the competition. That's that works better for me. It doesn't tire me out as long as I'm sleeping well and as long as I'm taking my days off. It doesn't tire me. So I'm better off doing more sets closer to the competition because then I feel more confident and comfortable going in because I know exactly what to expect. I've done it where, I taper and then the last, the week before, 2 weeks before the competition, I'm doing less time under the 24, or I'm doing more time under a lighter weight. That's an approach, but I don't care for that approach. And I've done it, but I don't do that way anymore.
Mhm. I think that's the beauty of it, right? Where you have
Yeah.
different prepping philosophies, different
Yeah.
because that's what I've gleaned from the conversations that I've had. It's like, all right, so there is no right way. There are different approaches, and you might want to try a couple of them and then
Yep.
see what floats your boat the most, right?
Yes. Yes. And there are many times when my coach will give me a set and I can't fulfill it. Either I don't have the energy or something happens where I cannot finish the set. I fail. And I always say, let me do this again in a couple days. Let me do the same set again. And I'd say 9 out of 10 times when I come back to try it again, I fulfill it because something happens when I fail. Then I know it's for me, it's about knowing what to expect. That if I come back to the set that I failed, then I'm able to fulfill it the next time. Um, and it's just something that happens. Either if she didn't give me a specific pace, then it's usually because I started out too fast.
Yeah.
Or if she did give me a specific pace, it's either that something about the technique. It's always something different. But by failing, I'm able to figure it out, come back, and then do it again. So I
I think
don't let that set go. I come back to it.
so. What I'm understanding of what you're sharing is you're placing a strong emphasis on the psychological aspect
For me, yeah,
of
yeah,
prep, right? Because
yeah,
when you say, I actually want to spend time with the 24, getting comfortable with it, which then means on competition day, you can then rely
yeah,
on the fact that I've already spent time
correct.
with you. right? You're not going to scare me,
Correct.
right?
Correct.
And the same thing is like when you fail a set, somebody else might say, all right, let's go back to my usual prep and then try to go back at it again a couple of weeks later. No, 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 no. I'm not going to let this slide. I want to own this set before moving forward, which just, correct me if I'm wrong, but it
Exactly.
sounds like you have a very strong emphasis on the psychological aspect of the lift.
You got it. Exactly. That's what I've found over the many years to work for me. And I understand the aspect of tapering, because you want the body and the nervous system to be fresh.
Mm-hmm.
But for me, it feels like guesswork. It's like,
Mm-hmm.
okay, I did a test set 3 weeks ago or 2 weeks ago and it went well. And then now I'm just going to do 20 kg or I'm just going to do short sets with the 24. And then when I get on that platform, it better be good because I tapered and I'm fresh. It's like there's
Yeah,
that expectation of,
100%.
okay, so you had that taper, so this better be good. Well, for me, that doesn't mean anything. The
Mm-hmm.
freshness, like that it's not that doesn't override the preparation for me to
Mm-hmm.
do what I want to do on the platform over and over again
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah,
so that
the
I
rely,
know
yeah,
I know
relying
it's
on it.
there.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I th- this is so interesting because this is exactly how I felt. But of course, again, I'm not the standard because I don't only did two competitions. But
Right.
I felt it that when I tapered, and I was going just by the books and by some sense. But I have to say that I already felt incredibly drained at the end of my
Right.
prep.
Well,
It wasn't.
that's something to pay attention to.
Most definitely. From a psychological standpoint, from everything that happened, I was just like, wow, I hope I better get through it. And then I read this one passage in the book. I don't have it with me right now. It's The Science and Practice of Strength Training from Satsiorsky, Kramer and Fry. It's three
Hmm.
authors. And he said, and that was very, very encouraging. He said, if you have elite athletes who are at the tippity top of their game, if they stop training only one day, they lose their form and fitness
Hmm.
immediately because
Hmm.
they're such on a high level that the
Hmm.
human body is so tweaked to it that if you just give it a second, your body's like, ooh, let this go. And I was like, when I read this, I'm like,
Yeah.
okay, so I'm supposed to wait a week before I go back to the 32. And I exactly felt like this. I picked it up.
Exactly.
But funny thing in 2024, I didn't feel like this when I did the candidate master of sport. And I remember because I did it online, I was doing it live on the YouTube. Every time I did a couple of reps at the 24, I'm like, it's lightweight, it's easy.
Yeah, yeah,
I
yeah.
was yelling these motivational chants like, I got this. And then in 2025, I'm like, you better shut up, man. This is not,
Yeah, well,
this
different
is
weight
too hard.
also, right? Yeah.
No, it was the same actually,
Oh,
right? It was
same
32.
24.
Yeah,
Yeah.
no, the 32 in 2024. And I'm talking about the year, right? Year
Yeah.
2024, I did
Yeah.
the 32, but the 5 minute set. And then 2025, I did the full 10 minute set with the 32
Right.
again. But still, and I'm not even trying to say like, that's the reason because my dad passed and because Steve passed. No, it's just whatever it was. I know my prep wasn't that good. I know a 10 minute set
Yeah.
is not the same. And yeah, you just have to own up to it and say, all right, at least, like you said, and you already caught up to it. My goal was just to get the MS from the IKO, right?
And yep, and you
I
did.
no numbers, not trying to beat anybody, trying to beat
Yeah,
myself. I can
exactly.
only imagine what it's like if you know, all right, so I got some heavy hitters right here with me,
Yeah, yeah.
and I want to beat these people. I better be good, right?
Yeah. Well, well, congratulations on your title, first of
I
all. That's
appreciate that.
always a huge hurdle, and it feels so good to get that. It's
Hmm.
that acknowledgement, when you hit any rank,
Yeah.
it's like that acknowledgement.
Hmm.
It feels so good.
Yeah, it
Yeah.
does. It does most
Yeah.
definitely. Yes.
But
And let me just
yeah,
quickly
go ahead.
ask you,
Yeah.
what are from the IKO, right? Do the numbers differ vastly from other institutions where they say like, all right, if you want to get master sport in our
Right.
institution, you have to do way more reps.
I don't think it's vastly. No, I haven't looked at. No, I don't think it's vastly. I think
Interesting.
it's within like 8 reps, 5 to 8 reps, but
Ah,
I'm not
okay.
exactly sure, but I don't think it's a great difference.
So are they all, because that's another thing when I talk to athletes and coaches, the differences between the institutions. So you're able to do this, you're not able to use the belt with the rack, whatever, certain things
Uh,
that I've heard, right? But when it comes to the numbers, are they fairly similar?
I think they are fairly similar. I
Interesting.
think they are.
Hmm.
I think they are fair within a certain range of,
Hmm.
8 to 10 reps, I think. And
And
then the
so,
weight classes are often different as well.
yes, yes. Yeah, that's what I'm getting to. And so
Yeah.
you've realized, so you've found your place in a certain weight class where you say, I take the good and the bad with that weight class, like you said, right? If I'm heavier, I'm a little bit stronger, but then
Yeah.
my competitors change, right?
Mm.
And so you found your weight class, right? And are you competing on the different institutions, or is it just one? Are you focused, or what is your?
Right now, I'm pretty
Mm-hmm,
much the world championship I compete at is WKSF.
mm-hmm,
Um, and then I'll do like IKO or other organizations online competitions,
mm-hmm,
including the one I mentioned every April, the Kettlebell Classic. I forget the names. The Kettlebell
mm-hmm,
Classic
mm-hmm.
at Jeff Butterworth's gym in
Oh,
Massachusetts.
okay.
So he has the
Yes.
annual, right, every April, the Kettlebell Classic. And that's IKO and WKSF, I believe. Yeah. And also a qualifier for the World Championship. But you can get rank from IKO with it.
Yeah. Okay.
You
Okay.
can get
And so
rank.
the qualifier is a certain number of reps that you have to hit with the weight in order to be able to get qualified for
Not
the world champion?
necessarily.
No.
No, you don't need to. No, you don't have to make like a certain number. That used to be a thing back with
Mhm.
American Kettlebell Club, but no, not anymore. So to qualify for World Championship, you just have to compete either at a live event or by a video submission to one of the many opportunities there are to compete. There's usually 4 or 5 annually. They're just starting up again soon for next June's WKSF.
Mhm.
And what you have to do, so for the amateurs, 12 kg for women or 16 kg for women, they'll take as many lifters as want to apply.
Mhm.
For the elites, they take 2 women and 2 men from each for each lift with the 24 kg, so 2. And then and also for the men. So that would be the men's 32, the women's
Mhm.
24, the
Mhm.
elites, they're 2.
Mhm.
And the amateurs, they take as many who as want to come.
Per
So
country,
it's
right?
not that difficult. What?
Yes. Per country, right?
Per
With the
country, per
yes.
country. So in
Yes.
America, there aren't that many. So for my weight class, well, Audrey Bergio is in the 58 kg weight class. She's the only one.
Mm, mhm.
For
Yeah.
65 kg, which is my weight class, there's usually only me, usually. Then in the next weight class up would be Kim Fox, there's usually only her. And then in the
Mhm.
fourth weight class, there's Svetlana Krutchik.
Mm.
So we don't really, so we could, there's room for another woman to come into the elites in any of the weight classes if they want to join. But there aren't that many women in the country who do the lift or that want to come to Worlds. But there's room if they want to come.
Which is
But,
just brings
but
me to one particular aspect of just kettlebell sport, and that is it is simply gruesome, right?
well,
It
here's the thing. Here's the thing.
it is tough.
It is tough. But then I was having this conversation with a friend many years ago, and he said, you know what? It's not that hard because if you compare it to something like boxing in the ring,
Mhm. Mhm.
you're up against another person who's trying to hit you in the face. So it's endurance, it's power, it's mental, it's like defensive, it's offensive. Or you
Mhm.
think about a team sport like football,
Mhm.
where you're
Mhm.
crashing into each other, you've got this team, you've got this strategy and different plays, and so on the one hand, it's challenging. It's a very difficult sport. On the other hand, you're standing in one place. You're not doing any acceleration, deceleration. You're not changing planes of motion. You're not, you're doing one thing with technique over and over. And for the most part, you're just competing with yourself for the most
Mhm.
part.
Mhm.
So there are many ways it is very challenging, and there are many ways it's pretty simple.
Mhm. Mhm. I agree on that front. I
Yeah.
think the other issue with GS is just the marketability and the fact that it doesn't look sexy, so to speak.
No.
If you compare it to CrossFit and High Rocks, that just High Rocks was a great example of how you actually uh, set up a new type of
Yeah.
sport in the fitness genre, right?
Yeah.
And because it's publicly accepted, and you have a couple of powerhouses behind High Rocks. I think one of the guys who created it was the original organizer of the Boston Marathon or something
Yes. Oh,
major,
that's
right?
right.
Right? These guys have the connections, the major experience, right, on how to set up venues and how to actually do it, which is I saw High Rocks in Cologne, right, in Germany. And it was just, I think that was like 2 or 3 years ago, and now it's even way bigger. Now they feel like
It's a
thousands of
beautiful thing.
people
It's pretty
apply,
amazing. There are High Rocks
right?
classes at the gym, and it's pretty amazing.
Right?
Here's the thing that has to happen with kettlebell sport, and I hope it happens in our lifetime. CrossFit was around for many years, like 15 years before anybody had ever heard of it. It was around for a long time, and there were police and firefighters who were taking CrossFit classes and going to the boxes when it first came out. Nobody knew about it. And then many years later, there were more boxes being built, more
Mhm.
franchises, and
Mhm.
then Reebok started the CrossFit craze.
Yes,
And then
yes, yeah.
now everyone in the world knows about CrossFit. So this is how I see the genesis of what has to happen, the progression of kettlebell sport, if it's ever going to progress, is we need to have a conglomerate, a big company come in and say, this is interesting. This is something that you can do at any age, which is true because you can have
Mhm.
a child of 4 years old
Mhm.
lifting a
Mhm.
kettlebell, and you can have a person who's 60, you can have a person in their 80s that
Mhm.
go to the world. So from, 5 to 80 and beyond with this sport. And that's part of the beauty of it. Um, and they need to hopefully invest in it and then promote it. And that would be a great way for our sport to grow and become more popular. Because right now it's still underground. People think that kettlebell sport is about swings and just swings, because that's all
We're,
people know about
we're got
kettlebells. It's this thing
we've
you
got it.
swing.
The swing and the get up. We're gonna
And that's
talk about
it.
this
The
in a
swing and the
second.
get
Yeah,
up.
exactly.
And so if
100%.
it doesn't happen like this,
Mm.
we're just going to
Mm.
continue the way it is, and it would be very sad to not see it progress.
I think the way I see it from just kettlebells in general is just from the data that I have from my business as well as from the YouTube channel and the data that I've gathered with reaching millions of people now. It's just you have the between 40s and 60s. These people somehow magically gravitate towards kettlebells. That's what I've seen from the data. That's the reason why I then started to change my whole approach, market it towards the over 40 crowd and the over 50 crowd that we coach and that we teach. Because the kettlebell just offers you so many, I think it's the king of GPP. Kettlebells give you everything. It's the tide that lifts all boats of physical qualities. And that's what you need for general
Yep.
fitness. I think the kettlebell takes care of everything, which makes it so powerful. From
And
the
it's fun.
sport, and it's
Yeah,
fun, most definitely.
fun.
From a sport aspect, I just see the issue that I see is just the marketability. When you have one person doing one move for hundreds of reps, which if you're into it, you feel it, you're in it. But for some from the people outside looking in, it's just all right. So the bell goes up and down, up and down, up and
Correct.
down. So
Correct. Correct.
right, so that's the
Yeah,
issue that
there's
I'm
no
seeing.
right.
And the other issue isn't it that the big institutions in kettlebell sport, they have to get along with each other first, right? I mean, why do you have institution A doing this? Institution B does something completely different. And institution C says, all right, our rules are also completely different. It's such a small world. Why doesn't everybody get together and say, all right, let's create one major conglomerate amongst each other first, and then build it from there? I think you have more experience looking into this on the differences between the institutions.
Well, I think it's more financially viable if you create your own thing. That's your own thing, and get people to, buy your certification, compete at your place and with your rules and your ranking system and since the St. Petersburg week-long training camp, which was back in 2011, all of these 6 or 7 of these coaches that were there who were independent trainers and athletes have created their own thing. Each of them created their own thing.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah. Well, I mean, that's what it is, right? Everybody does their own thing, which is fine to a certain extent. But if you want to push it to levels of, for example, I just recently read an article about high rocks. It's supposed to be represented at the Olympics, and I'm like, come on, man. I think high rocks is fine. Yeah. Now they want. It's just an article. I hope it gets Olympic recognition one day, and I'm like, I think GS should be there first, because
I agree.
That's more of a traditional sport, the way I see it, than high rocks. High rocks is rather like
high rocks is
right?
it's putting together a number of, a dozen exercises and branding it. I could do that. I can do that in 5 minutes. But what we don't have behind us is the marketing and the money.
Exactly.
That's what kettlebell sport needs. Now, here's the thing. Kettlebell sport is a weightlifting sport. It needs to go under the USA weightlifting. So that USA weightlifting needs to be the umbrella to house kettlebell sport. Now, kettlebell sport is being considered by the Olympic Committee. It's been filed and it's being considered, but until there's so many fractures and so many things that don't support the sport getting into the Olympics right now that that need to be ironed out, including getting us under the banner of USA weightlifting.
I think that's the point that I was alluding to, is you have to have one major conglomerate that says, all right, so we recognize it as an entity, and not just everybody is there.
Exactly.
It's fractioned. This is this camp, this, no. Let's put everything together. We have one rule, we have one set, we have one, right? And so that's the idea where sports come in, where you have a country representing your sport at the Olympics. It's not just everybody does their own thing. You have these rules, this is how we have to do it. Not everybody does their own thing. Even though, right, when you look at certain sports, you have the individual fractions again, but then at least they are represented from a huge conglomerate that then takes it to the Olympic level. And when I read this article, for me, it was like, no, from my perspective, I think GS has a way higher standard to be recognized at the Olympics compared to high rocks.
I agree, but again, it's like follow the money, right?
100%.
And all right, so let's say I keep saying Olympic lifting, the USA lifting for us in America took kettlebell sport under its wing. Whose rules are we using? Whose rankings are we using? Or we don't even need rankings, but whose bells are we using?
Yeah.
It's too complicated, and it gets more and more complicated every year. So we're not doing ourselves any favors.
Exactly. So that's why I get it, but people should step up and say, let's put our differences aside for the greater good, right? To have it recognized.
That's
It's hard.
That's a universal issue, right?
In every area of life.
Every single thing in life.
100%. Let's talk a little bit about that snatch post. You might remember when you were explaining the snatch. And I told you before we started the recording, when I watched you explain it and listen to it, and I have a couple of notes here about technique. You talked about technique. That's something that maybe if I'm allowed to want to pick your brain about
Sure.
perfect technique to a certain extent, which allows for individual differences, but there are certain fundamentals that everybody's supposed to follow in order to be able to do it, right? But just that snatch post, you were talking about, you explained it in a way how I was immediately reminded of Steve Carter, my sensei,
Mm,
because Steve had this incredible and powerful way of articulating himself in a way that he was clear as day, the way he pronounced the words.
mm.
He said a couple of sentences and it was ultimately clear what he meant. And he had this passion, this drive to it. So me being
Yeah.
his student, I'm trying to emulate what Steve was doing. And so when I watched your reel, I'm like, wow, she's like Steve. I
Oh,
gotta talk
wow.
to her,
Thank you.
right? And
Thank
so
you so much.
the
Nice.
point of, you're welcome. The point about that snatch is the way you explained it. How would you, or let me rephrase this, what are the most important pillars and aspects of a proper snatch technique that you want to see in a beginner and advanced in a professional, where you say, all right, this person has a snatch down pat?
Oh boy. Well, first, thank you for the comparison to Steve. He was a great guy and a shock, absolute shock
Mm,
to lose him as a
mm,
friend, as a teacher, as a kettlebell peer.
mm,
Um, yeah, great man,
mm.
really
Amen.
great man, never
Mm,
to be forgotten. And a funny as hell,
yeah.
funny as hell. Um, So let's see. What are here's the thing. Jerk and long cycle, not easy to perform, but it's simple because you get the bells into the rack and then you power through your legs and hips, get the weight overhead. It's pretty linear. The jerk is fairly linear.
Mhm,
It's a power move, and then the swing clean. You got the snatch is different because you're going to see so many different styles.
yeah.
And even for me, being in it almost 20 years, I still go nuts seeing people with different styles because there might be one little difference I see that they're doing compared to everybody else. And I'm like, oh, I got to try that because maybe that's the thing that will give me 20 more reps.
Mm,
And it's not, it won't be, but I always have to try it. Every
mm,
time I see a little
mm,
nuance that somebody else does, and there's so many nuances.
mm,
Do you
mhm,
stand sagittal? Do you stand diagonal?
mhm,
Do you let your arm and hand internally rotate on the backswing? Do you keep the
mm,
thumb forward? Do you drop with the thumb forward and then let it internally rotate? Do you keep the bell very close or do you send it away to create more of a pendulum? There are so many variables that it can be crazy making. And it has been, I have tried every single iteration and I still do to this day. So, in terms of what I want to see with a person, it really depends on what they're showing me so far. A lot of people, when they start out, they think that they need to spin the bell, like spin it and I see a lot of that. I see
And
a
how
lot
would
of,
you, and if we stay on that spinning idea, which where it's
Mhm.
like they throw it forward and they flick the wrist around, right?
Yeah.
So how would
So
you, yeah, how
what
would you
I what
correct this? What is the best way to go about it?
right. So what the reason they're spinning is to get the bell to start to drop.
Yeah.
So how I would correct that is I say you just want that bell on the outside of your wrist before you drop. So let's say you have your hand. Here's your position and your fixation. The bell is here. All you need to do is shift your arm slightly so the bell is here and then let it go. You don't need to wind it. It's a very subtle, but by winding it, which a lot of beginners do, they wind and then they drop.
Yes.
It's just a very slight turn. It's almost imperceptible
So
and then
it's,
drop.
yes, so it's the focus should be rather on the shoulder than the forearm,
Oh, correct. I'm
right?
talking shoulder. Yep.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
And then a lot of them use their arm too much to bring the weight up as opposed to their trunk. And a lot of people don't understand how to use the opposite leg. So if they're going on their right arm, they're dropping or they're coming up, the necessity to push through the opposite
Yes,
leg,
yes.
which is
That is
not always,
crucial.
people don't always understand. No, they
Mm.
don't know unless they have a
Mm-hmm.
coach, but that's very
Mm-hmm.
important, is to use the oppositional forces
Mm-hmm.
with snatch.
Exactly.
Right,
Exactly. That's why
right.
that's
So there
this.
there are a
Mm-hmm.
lot of details. Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
a lot of
So
detail.
and how would you consider breathing?
Breathing, it's important.
Of course, yes. And
It's
would
important.
mhm. How do you teach it? Because a lot of people breathe up here, right? And a lot of people don't even breathe. Then the way I did it
Yeah.
is I had the 3 breaths up, hold it at the top, go for another 1 or 2 breaths in order to get my 12 to 13 RPM. Of
Yes.
course, if I just go up and drop it back down again, it goes faster. Sometimes I even tried, if I was going fast with a lighter bell, I was going to the backswing, bell goes up, I inhale on the way up through the
Correct.
nose, right? Holding on
Very good.
top, and as it drops, I'm going with the nose again, right? So, and how would you, what are the differences? How do you breathe? What is the most
You,
important aspect that you
you're
teach?
so right. I like everything you're saying. You're so right. Well, when I teach breathing, it's mostly I'm starting with the swings. I'm just teaching them breathing so that when the bell goes through, exhale. When the bell comes out, exhale. And that takes a while for people to get, especially if they came from, especially first if they came from hard style, or second
Yeah,
if they don't breathe when they
yep,
exercise. They don't breathe. So
yep,
now they have to pay attention to,
yep,
when do I breathe? So
yep.
the first thing is just swings, like swing, exhale when it goes through, exhale as it comes out, right? So if this is your trunk and the back swing is here, 7 o'clock, 5 o'clock, exhale, 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 exhale,
Yes,
right?
yes.
And then, like you said, when you push the hand through, that's an exhale. And then if you have time, extra exhale, right?
Mm-hmm.
And like you said, also, if I'm going very fast, um, I'll change my breathing as is comfortable.
Mm-hmm.
I'll breathe less. For the most part, I'll breathe less, but I'll change when I breathe. I'll change it up. And that feels comfortable too. Like you said, as the bell's coming up, sometimes I'll inhale, or sometimes I'll inhale up here if you're going at a very fast pace.
Mm-hmm.
Um, yeah, but that's how I'll start the person breathing, is just with the low swings.
That's great. Yeah, it's great to hear. And it's so great when I hear confirmation from other
Right.
professionals that see it in a similar way, because so
Yes.
often, right, in fitness, it's everybody says something else. Even though I have to say, I always say to people who are a little bit confused, yes, at the bottom of the barrel, so to speak, it goes from left and right, from Jupiter to Pluto, yes. But
Yeah.
once you step up the pyramid and once you're at the top, opinions come a little bit closer, because these are people who've spent a lot of time, especially with the bells. And so there is a certain way how to do it, let's say, the ideal way. And then, of
Right.
course, as Steve Carter always said, individual differences always apply.
Always, always,
So,
right?
and let's talk a little bit about, which I think what is so fascinating about the snatch is leverage mechanics, right? Where you, once the bell is up and you let it drop, and I had this powerful statement, this powerful cue that I got from Nova Kettlebell Training. He's from the
Uh-huh.
UK. I forgot his name. But he says, when the bell goes up, right? If the elbow bends, the power ends. And so I internalize this, where it's like when the bell goes up, I keep it extended. And so that's why you have to then start shifting back the upper body and shifting the center of mass. Because if you keep the arm straight and you're inside or almost outside your center of mass to the forward, the belt and slaps you, or it goes way too hard. So you have to use these leverage mechanics. So my question would be, when we talk about leverage mechanics, because when I look how you snatch, I always see your front game when you
Mm-hmm.
share videos. So how important is leverage mechanics to you? Do you shift back strongly? And then in the backswing, are you using a strong pendulum, or are you rather deadlifting it to a certain extent? So what are your main points there?
Um, yeah, I'm when I'm dropping, I am shifting back.
Hmm.
My right is a little different from my left, but I'm shifting back, especially to the toward the opposite leg.
Hmm.
I don't do a deep elbow bend. Like I don't bring the arm very close to the body like some lifters do. Um, but I do lean back. And then mm, I don't have as long a backswing as I used to, but I do like a generous backswing because I want to let
Hmm.
that pendulum do the work for me. And then the key is to wait for the bell to finish that backswing. So you have a little moment of grip relief. And then as it starts to come up, I lean to the opposite leg, lean my trunk away, let it go up, and then break the elbow and push my hand through. So there is a point around chest or neck level when you break and redirect that
Hmm.
arm
Hmm.
up.
Hmm.
Now, not everybody does that. There are some women who, if you see Abigail Johnston, who's a
Hmm.
phenomenal lifter, if you
Hmm.
watch her,
Hmm.
she she hardly breaks her elbow on the way down, but she does a big lean back and she hardly breaks her elbow on the way up. It looks like she's
It's straight
just going
almost.
straight up and she
That's
pushes her hand
crazy.
through,
That's crazy.
whereas other people have a very defined break and push to
Mm.
redirect. So again, it's the
The
nuances.
nuances are
But
so
if
incredible.
you
Yeah.
don't bend the elbow on the way down or bend the elbow on the way up, you have to lean back away.
Mm.
So at some point, whether you're leaning back or whether you're staying upright and bringing the elbow in, you're reducing that span between
That's
you and the bell.
exactly.
That's the point. That's the
Yeah.
physics of it, right?
Yes, that's exact. That's the fundamentals again. Hmm.
Those are the fundamentals. And so it also depends on the bell's window, the window between
Yeah,
the top of the
100%.
bell, right, and the bottom of
100%.
the handle. So the top
Mm-hmm.
of the bell and the bottom of the handle. So if it's a little bit of a longer window, which I
Mm-hmm.
love,
Mm-hmm.
then it's going to be a more generous pendulum, right? And you have more room to slip your hand in or more time to slip your hand into that window. If it's a shorter window, it's I don't care for those types of bells, but you have to adjust.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
What I think is fascinating also in the snatch is in the backswing, that with the Lido bells, I can go. I love how you coined this, a generous backswing.
Hmm.
I've written that down because I always look for how people describe certain movement patterns, and a generous backswing makes so much sense
Hmm.
because I know exactly what you mean. That means you give the kettlebell enough room. And somebody, man, when you hear from everybody, that's why you steal from everybody. So that makes up myself. Is I steal from everybody, and then I don't even know where I got it from. But it's just somebody said it's like you're trying to hit a target.
Yeah.
So it's like you have a target behind you, and once the bell comes back, right, and you extend the knees and the hips go up, boom, you try to touch that target, which then creates this mental image like, now I got
Yeah.
it.
Every
And the
time, right.
yes, and the way you said it is generous backswing means give the bell enough room in the backswing to create that maximum pendulum.
Correct.
However, which I have felt what I'm then lacking to a certain extent is if I'm creating this maximum pendulum with extended knees in the backswing, I feel that I'm lacking the strength, so I have to bend them a little bit because the pull of gravity is so hard,
Yes.
especially with the heavier weights. So gravity wants to pull that thing straight down all the time. With the lighter weights, I can mitigate it. But with the heavier weights, I feel like I have to use my legs a little bit more. That's why I say I deadlifted a little bit, where I don't have that maximum pendulum, but I got some additional quads that can help me to propel it back up. Which again is like the difference as you
Yeah.
mentioned when you look at, for example, Khwostov, where he drops it,
Yeah.
it goes right there, or Denisov, right, where it goes
Yeah.
out there sideways. I'm like,
Yeah.
what are these guys doing?
Yeah.
And I actually tried it. And one thing that I've realized is not even in the competition set, but it's like you either use typical Denis Vasilev style, sagittal, boom, like this. Or when I look at Denisov going from the side, you can actually switch between them because
Yes.
the requirements on your body are a little bit different depending on the type of style you're using. So it
Correct.
might, right? So it might be a certain strategy in a set.
That's right.
How do you go about it? Do you say, listen, my technique is fixed. This is exactly how I move. I'm not deviating from it.
No, no.
All right. All right.
So no, and actually what's interesting is I started off totally sagittal on both sides with snatch. Now I tend to start my right side is pretty much sagittal and my left side starts sagittal, and as I get into the set I go a little more diagonal
Interesting.
naturally because here's why. Because my left grip is weaker than my right grip. But as we discussed before, if I'm snatching on my left side, it's my right hip and right leg that's working. So as I start to get tired on my left side, I want to preserve my left grip. That's my weaker grip. So what I've learned happens naturally without me trying is I end up opening a little more diagonal as the reps go on my left. So I start sagittal on my left, but then as I get into the minutes, I start ending up diagonal, and it works for me because as I start going diagonal, I'm using more of my right glute complex.
Yes, yes, yes.
And I can also use more trunk deflection. So it feels really good to start sagittal, but then I go more diagonal. On my right side, my left hip is not as strong. So I typically tend to stay more sagittal on the right. But,
Fascinating. Yeah.
this is the difference between the sides.
Yeah.
And,
That, yeah.
you can, but fortunately you can play with these angles if you want.
You know what's crazy when I had this conversation with Valery Fedorenko and he said, in
Yeah.
my time it was if you have 90 reps left side, you have to hit 90 reps right side. And that's it. And then
Totally equal.
they take the 90 reps. So if you have 90 reps left side and 89 right side, it's 89 reps. That's how it was.
Oh,
I'm like,
that's
"Oh, that's
brutal.
tough. That's
Can you
OG stuff."
imagine if they
That's-
can you imagine if they did that now?
Yes. Oh
People would
my
we wouldn't have a
God.
sport.
Yeah,
We wouldn't have a
it's
sport.
way too hard. That's the Russian way of going all
Of
in. It's
course.
like,
Yeah.
listen, both sides have to be equal. But listen, that's not the you. I don't care about
Yeah.
this. We
Yeah.
do it
Well,
like this.
he's a real OG. He's
He's a real
massive
OG.
respect to him. We could talk
Yes,
about him for a long time.
most
He's a
definitely.
great guy. Yeah, great guy.
And that was so interesting to know that, wow, so actually back then you were forced to make sure that both sides are as equal as possible. And if you're not able to get the left on par with the right, that means we take your weaker set and count these reps on the weaker hand, and that's it, right?
Boy, that really makes you focus, doesn't it? Really
Yes,
makes you
yes,
focus on your weak points, which we should be doing anyway, but this forces you.
yes. It's always
Not
good if
optional.
something's forcing you.
Work on your
Exactly.
weak points. Right.
You mentioned something about trunk deflection. Can you quickly explain what you
Yeah.
mean
So
with trunk deflection? Yeah.
so if you see someone like Alexander Kostov
Hmm.
or Abby, like mentioned, Abby or Carissa, So as the bell drops, they're leaning to their opposite leg and they're leaning the trunk back to make room for the bell. Right? And then the same thing happens as the bell comes out of the backswing. You're leaning away from it as it comes up. And then for most people, we break the elbow, push through. At the
Yes.
same time, we come
Yes.
under.
So you're describing trunk deflection as making sure that your torso or your trunk carries the brunt of the weight once it comes down. Is that
Yeah,
what you're
same thing with the
saying?
clean. With
Yeah,
this with
of
the
course.
clean.
Yes.
We want to
Yes.
deflect, right? So
Def-
as we're going into the swing
yes.
clean, we want a little bit, it might be imperceptible, but we don't want to go down with the bells. Well, you did a
Yes.
video about that, right? So there's a
Mm-hmm.
little deflection.
Mm-hmm.
You
Mm-hmm.
wait, and that helps the trunk and the
That's the
hip to then
key.
absorb the backswing and then absorb it to come back up. Right.
Massive key that I've realized, and
Yeah.
that was a couple of years back. And I remember how Dennis used to explain it to me when he said it's like when you drop the bells, you actually want to go away from them
Away.
in
Right.
order that it's like a tandem, right? So it pulls you back, and once you come back from the backswing and back up, you still want to get and Alain Laguet from Mallorca from the Strongbox, also an awesome athlete, then taught me the pulling of the
The shoulder, the
traps,
traps, right?
right? Where you then pull the bells back up, which
You
which is
can use
all
your
that's
trap.
what I love about the specifics of GS. It's a super high-end technical game,
It really is.
which
People don't realize. So especially if you see snatch, you just think people think it's all momentum. Well, it's a lot of it is momentum, but the point is it's all about the technique to create and follow that momentum. And in order to get hundreds of reps or get through a 10-minute set, you have to know how to do that technically. It's not the momentum doesn't happen on its own.
Mhm,
It's
mhm.
technically created technically, and I don't think people realize how technically how proficient you need to be able to do it because it looks rather easy.
A hundred
It
percent.
looks pretty easy.
And yeah, especially when you look at the elites. But I
Yeah.
think that's with when you look at Lasha clean and jerking 264 kilograms, it looks like, all right,
Yeah.
looks like a piece of
Yeah.
cake. And
Yeah.
I mean, the insane thing when you look at Lasha is the guys are done with clean and jerking, and then Lasha's like, all right, you can leave it there. You can leave the clean and jerk. I'm going to use it for snatch. What? This is so insane. The
Oh my God.
strength these guys have,
Yeah.
right? And
Yeah.
I've mentioned this a couple of times in the podcast, which is such a conundrum to a certain extent. So here you have Lasha being the
Mm.
strongest person. I mean, just to be real, I respect the strong man, but for me, weightlifters are the strongest people on earth.
Uh-huh.
It's the clean and that's just yes, and we can talk about momentum and we can talk about explosiveness. Try to get 200 kilograms off the floor
Yeah.
up. Come on,
Oh,
this
no
is just
question.
absolute
No
no question,
question.
right?
It's
No question.
phenomenal.
It's phenomenal.
Phenomenal.
But the point is, Lasha is severely obese. Lasha has a 45 BMI.
Wow.
I think he's 180 kilograms,
Wow.
which is, it's so crazy. So you have one of
Contradictory. Yeah.
the
Yeah.
strongest man on earth is super obese, which is so crazy when you look at typical fitness, right? It's like, and that's why I not only have I read about it, I've only experienced it in our coaching. I've had some ladies who were obese, but these were
Yeah.
beasts.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
they were fit and they were strong. Like, "Hey, don't mess with her.
Yeah.
Yeah. She's a little, yeah. I get this, but
A little heavy, but still
she's gonna push you
strong.
into the ground. Yeah. And
Strong.
that's the
Yeah.
point, right? Where I
Strong.
think they coined it, obesity fit, something like this. I can't remember, but they said
Hmm.
it is possible to be obese and fit at the same time to a certain extent,
To a certain extent, yes, it
right?
is.
Yes,
We don't
which
want
is
to pay attention to the American standards of BMI. It's total nonsense. I don't even look at those charts. It's ridiculous.
to a certain.
It's a number.
I've learned in my education that I've gotten on a nutritional standpoint. We've learned that BMI is it is one of it is one way to grade it, but it's not, of course, it's not the only defining
Right.
factor. But
Right.
here's the point. Let me just draw your attention a little bit to, and I wonder if you have your eyes on it, double half snatch.
I have my eyes on it, watching other people do it.
Hmm.
I'm not interested.
Why?
Um,
Because let me just
be,
preface this. I've fallen in love with it. I'm not not for
yeah,
competition, but I've fallen in love with the exercise. It is, I love it. I
really, I'm glad.
Levi
I'll,
brought me on. Levi introduced. I mean, I did double half snatch before, but Levi's method. He was here in Switzerland. He was 2 days with us. We had podcasts. We're training. We did content, and I love Levi. Levi Waterquart. I love this guy to death. It was a great conversation. We're
yeah.
super aligned with each other, and he's jerk, long cycle, half snatch, and half snatch is such a power game. I love it. But go ahead.
It is a power game. I think I would enjoy it like you for training and conditioning purposes, but not to compete. There's something about, and well, look, I've said many things in my career where that I say I'm not going to do it, and then I end up doing it. So don't
That's,
don't
it's not
don't
permanent,
take that
right?
as
Okay.
gospel, right? But
Yes,
I
yes.
would do, like, for example, I do long cycle and I do jerks for training and conditioning, but I'm not interested in competing in it because it's just not my lift. I don't
Hmm.
it's not my thing, as Austin Powers said, it's not my thing, baby. But
Hmm.
but half snatch I might play with. I might play with it. There's just something about snatch, the rotational aspect and there's just something different about it that I really love. But half snatch I would train for conditioning for sure. I
Hmm.
could see the enjoyment of that. Yeah.
So what I've realized with the double half snatch, because I was forced to, as I was going for the heavier weights, is once I drop the bell in the backswing, I do what you've mentioned. I start internally rotating, right? But only to a certain extent. But I've realized, and which was so fascinating in my snatch game with one arm, is doesn't matter whether it's half or full snatch. I drop the bell into the backswing, and I used to. Now looking back, I've realized that I was trying to break. I was trying to break the momentum or break the moment arm, the torque in my
Yes.
forearm and in my
Yes.
shoulder, and I was hitting the brakes on it as it dropped in the backswing. Looking back, now I completely, as the bell drops into the backswing, I completely let the kettlebell do its own thing. So it
Yes.
twists and twirls me around. I do not mess with it.
Yeah.
I fully let the torque go and then go back up. And by doing this, I've realized not only am I conserving my grip, but
Yes.
I stop burning out my forearm and biceps because I just
Excellent.
let it completely go.
Excellent.
And I've
Excellent.
I've learned this through double half snatch because double both bells, it's like, my God, my arms are killing me. And so I
Yeah.
realized as I'm dropping them and letting them go, that the key that I've realized is by letting them go, it's a little bit harder to control it when it goes back up and trying to go into hand insertion, but
Yes.
you're able to mitigate it.
Correct. Everything you're saying and you've experienced is correct. Because when we swing with and leave the thumb forward, it will shorten the backswing a little bit in all of the lifts, whether you're cleaning, snatching, double snatching. So if you relax and if you are comfortable letting the arms internally rotate, then that's great.
Mhm.
Yes, and it will be a little more work to then reverse it to go back up, but you'll be able to relax your grip, your forearms, your shoulders more
Mm,
in the backswing, and you'll get
awesome.
a little bit of a longer backswing.
Yes, yes. I've also realized on the way back up. So even if I do a full pendulum, as I go on the way back up, pushing the knees forward again, it's like I imagine I'm like drawing water
Yeah.
from a well.
Oh,
So the
that's
bell
good.
goes down, and then I slightly dip back down. And if you would look at it in slow motion, the movement will go back, and then there's a subtle dip, and
Yes.
then it's not just dipping forward on a horizontal, but I always go a little bit into the vertical plane where I'm like
Down and then
grabbing
right.
water. and then go back up. And I
Yep.
felt that this is like, wow, just realizing, letting the bell go and letting it twist myself to a certain extent. And it's just, and the crazy thing is, trying to explain is a little bit hard. The feeling that I get is just so awesome when you'll be like, wow, like you said, you're trying different things. And I like, oof, I've learned something new. Let me go down the rabbit hole in that case.
The thing is, with all of these different techniques and variables, the finding what's the most comfortable for you and what lets gravity do the most work for the bell so you don't have to move the bell. The bell moves for you and you move yourself around the bell. That's the best feeling that there
100%.
ever is. It's the best feeling, but it can take very long. It's a never-ending process to find that feeling. Yeah.
It's fascinating that you're mentioning this being 20 years in the game. It's
Yeah.
another thing that I've heard from all the athletes and professionals that I've had on. When I talked about Alexander, and what I love about the Russians is that you have to pull it out their nose sometimes in conversations. I'm like, I
Yeah.
gotta ask like 5 different questions, and I get with with
Yeah.
with Alexander, it was like, so how did you get started? Well, I was in military. That was 24 kg, and I did it.
That's right.
Okay,
That's right.
so that's the story.
It's
Okay,
not a long story.
exactly. And then he said, well, I'm still perfecting my jerk, and I'm like, wow.
Right. We don't see it, but in his mind, we don't see it.
And
But his evolution of his snatch technique, I've seen it, and it's quite remarkable. Remarkable, because now it's totally different than it has ever been.
wow. But I mean, when you look at Alexander, the guy snatching 52 kg for reps.
Yeah.
He
Yeah.
did recently, I think it was a 36, just recently, 36, 100 plus reps in 5 minutes, one arm.
Yeah. Beautiful. And the last rep looks like he's not struggling. I mean, he's working hard, but it's not like he's losing the pendulum. He's not losing his grip.
It's
It's so incredible.
pure,
Yeah, he's
yeah,
incredible athlete.
it's just craftsmanship. You see the technical details ironed out. And what I really appreciate of people, just like you said, right? It's a never ending process, right? What I'm trying to always internalize is you'll never get there, but that's the beauty of it. The goal is the journey, right? This is so interesting. So
Yeah,
the final piece that it's actually two things that I really want to draw
sure.
your attention to. You mentioned something about, before we got started with the recording, uh, first, I have to ask you about asthma. So
Yeah.
was this a genetical predisposition that you experienced? And just to get this straight, you were able to overcome it by putting in the work. Are you,
Yeah. Yeah.
but do you still suffer from it? Where you still like, I over, I'm able to overcome it, but I still feel it?
Yeah. So yeah, pretty much genetic. And then just when it was exercise induced asthma for the most part.
Oh,
And then over the course of about 9 years, even though I had an inhaler with me, a prescribed inhaler, I'd be at the gym taking these classes and pumping the inhaler every 5 minutes. You're not supposed to do that. You're not supposed to use it that often. But I couldn't, even with the inhaler, I couldn't breathe very well. And then over the course of taking all these aerobics classes and starting to jog, and the good thing is my intention wasn't to overcome asthma. I didn't even think about it. It was just something, asthma was something I was burdened with. It was a handicap. It was just something that I lived with, and I did what I could.
mm,
I loved the classes for all the reasons I mentioned before, and I loved being physical. I was a natural athlete, but I just couldn't breathe, right? I mean, I had the heart and the mind of an athlete, but I didn't know it yet. So going to those classes and the camaraderie, and every time I'd go back, it wasn't to enhance my breathing. It was just to do this thing that I found out that I loved. And then over the course of the years, my lung capacity just got better, fortunately. Yeah.
and so would you say if somebody walks up to you with with a similar situation, so Lorna, please help me, maybe not overcome it, but please
Yeah.
help me mitigate this. What would you say to this person?
Yeah, so start doing some aerobics, jogging, stop, start. There's no, when you feel before the time you feel like you're really labored in your breathing, not because of the running, but because of the asthma, you stop and you walk. And then you just keep doing intervals and using your inhaler. I still have an inhaler and I take it almost every time before I work out. I'm not going to have an asthma attack, but it just makes my breathing better. So intervals would be the thing that I would suggest somebody with exercise-induced asthma start with.
Have you
Uh,
seen any types of effects that influenced your asthma due to the kettlebells or the training of kettlebells?
By the time I got into kettlebells, my conditioning was really good because of all the maniacal cardio I was doing. So
Mhm,
it
mhm,
wasn't, it didn't, at that point, it didn't handicap me any longer. Yeah.
mhm.
The worst of it was over by the time I got into kettlebells.
Again, so here's what I'm gleaning from you again, which it's, I appreciate that. It's like, okay, listen, I was born with this condition, but I wasn't ruled by it. I was just, all right,
Right.
so I got it. Let me let me do what
Yeah.
I can and let's go.
Yeah.
End of story, right?
Right.
Yeah,
Right.
that's I love that. Yeah, that's awesome. So the final thing that I really want to touch on is heart style. We have to talk about it,
Okay.
right? So that snatch video you made, I remember, I think I commented something along
You
those
did.
lines of saying, I stopped giving it a label. If the content that I do, and just to preface this, and then
Yeah.
I want to get your perspective. I stopped giving it label in terms of if I do content, I just say I do snatch, period. I do jerk, period. I do swing, period. I don't use any type of descriptive label, which I believe is artificial. So there is a snatch, here you go. Snatch however you want, there's a snatch, period. And sometimes I get asked this, well, what about the hard style? What about the GS? And so the way I explain it sometimes is listen, the snatch is a strength endurance exercise. And once you master it, the technical aspects of it, it becomes an endurance exercise. So once I understand, it's like running to a certain extent. Of course, you're moving a weight. But if I know that an exercise is rather strength endurance based, then I want to follow all the biomechanical applied principles that make the most sense in order to attain and achieve this cardiovascular benefit that I'm getting from this exercise. So, for example, if I'm running, right, and I do a lot of, I'm not sprinting, I'm running,
Hmm.
of
Hmm.
course, I'm not jumping on a marathon to sprint, right? But even if we consider sprinting and running, it's still running. You run. That's it. How do
Correct.
you run? Either fast
Correct.
or slow. That's it. So it doesn't really matter. You just run very fast or run very slow. So even if you do a snatch for conditioning purposes without a 10-minute set, well, just do a 20 RPM. This is going to gas you out most definitely, and you get all these benefits along attached with it. Plus, the hardstyle crowd in that sense just doesn't make sense to me in the ballistic field. In the ballistic realm, I just do not understand it. It doesn't make sense. Also, you mentioned the swing and the get up being so prevalent that people completely misunderstand that there's way more to it than just these two exercises.
Yeah.
And so, what is your take on the whole hardstyle GS debate, or if there even is a debate in your eyes?
I don't think there's a
What is your
debate.
take?
There's not a debate in my eyes. What the reason why I did that post about the comments is because when I post something about my training, once in a while, and it's not pervasive, but once in a while I'll have somebody coming into my comments and saying, why aren't you squeezing the handle at the top? Or why you're not, or I see it on other people's posts when they post something about kettlebell sport. It's like, why is that kid lifting his heel on the snatch? He's not
Yeah,
supposed, the heel
all the
should be
time.
grounded or something.
All the time.
The only thing that bothers me is not about the discussion about the ways to use the bell. It's about the fact that some people have been trained in one dogmatic style and because of the way they learned it, they think that this is the only way you're supposed to move a bell. But whoever told them that is incorrect in their teaching of this tool. It's a tool. So at some point I'll do a post about, now you're not a woman, so you can't relate, but let's say I have an eyeliner. This is a pen, but let's pretend this is my makeup eyeliner. Eyeliner can be used to define the eye and make it look pretty. A very thin line to make it look pretty. So I can go to Mary Kay, which is a franchise. And if I go to Mary Kay and I say, teach me how to use this eyeliner to just make a nice, pretty eye, every Mary Kay instructor, makeup instructor, is going to teach me the same way how to use this eyeliner, because Mary Kay teaches eyeliner and makeup the same way, because it's a franchise and it's a brand.
Exactly.
Now, if I go to MAC is another makeup store here in the United States and throughout the world. Everyone at MAC is an independent makeup artist. So I can go to MAC and ask one makeup artist at MAC to teach me how to use this eyeliner to make a pretty eye. But I can go to another makeup artist at MAC and teach me how to use this eyeliner to do it like Amy Winehouse, where it's all the way up here. And I can go to a third, a fourth, and a fifth makeup artist at MAC to teach me how to use this eyeliner 10 different ways for my face. The tool is the same. The application is different. And nobody can say that the way you're using the eyeliner for this or that purpose is wrong, or that you should do it this way, because there are many different ways to use this tool. That's all there is. But so it just sometimes bothers me when people who should be curious would rather preach and say, you shouldn't be doing XYZ, instead of saying, I've never seen that before. Why are they doing it? XYZ. They're assuming it's wrong. And to me, that is, that's not how we get better as athletes, as coaches, as human beings. That's all there is to it.
I appreciate that analogy with the eyeliner. What I seen getting from the conversation that I had with John Duquesne, who was the mastermind with Pavel in the 2000s to create the RKC, is they invited back then Valery Fedorenko. Yet they decided to do their own thing. And here's where I'm having an issue to a certain extent, and where I just don't see its application, because they did not, and at least that was Pavel's story. John Duquesne's story. I tried to get Pavel on the podcast, but he said he's not doing podcasts anymore. And a couple of weeks later, he appears on Uberman. I mean, I'm not the biggest podcast.
Of course. No, but still. I hear you.
So the point is, John Duquesne said, we purposely and intentionally created our own thing, not because it makes sense, but because we wanted to stand out. So we did things differently because we wanted to become the authority in the United States. Sure. And back then, when the internet wasn't in its in its infancy, they were able to get away with it to a certain extent. And so that's where my point comes in. If we look at it from this perspective, snatch how we want. I don't care, right? Yeah. If you're happy, I think, and here's the point, I think you can snatch wrong and still get great benefits. Awesome. Yeah. But once we take a look at it from the technical analysis, and we want to really nerd out on the exercise, it becomes a strength endurance exercise. Not unlike the jerk, right? Right. Unlike the long cycle, which has a more power base than the snatch, right? And so that's where I'm coming from, is if I know an exercise has a certain application and gives me a certain motor ability or physical quality, then I want to train it accordingly. I can't do cardio with barbells, even though CrossFit claims it's possible, but yeah, you can.
Yeah.
I think if that's the
High
case,
risk of injury too.
exactly, do a lots of clean and jerk with light weights and then run a marathon, I don't think it's going to work out, right? But the point is, it's just where I'm coming from, and that's why I had to write a comment. And I think Dennis shared this with me. He said people always react to what they have been exposed to first, right? That's why people only think it is swing and get up.
Yeah. Well, I was exposed to kettlebell sport first, but I don't
Yeah, which
comment.
is
I don't make
fascinating.
comments like that. So,
Yeah,
but here's the
yeah.
thing,
School of thought, right?
it's right, exactly, school of thought. And it goes back to what we were talking about in the beginning is creating something that can be branded, that can be replicated, and that will make money. It's brilliant. I'm not knocking them down. I
No,
think it's brilliant what they've created. And the 8 moves or the 10 moves that they do, fine. It's great. They've created a way to move kettlebells, absolutely fine. But just don't stop. Just don't tell people this is the only. I don't think they do that anymore. I don't think they talk about, the only way, or what was it, the one true way. I don't think they talk about that anymore. But um, you know,
it's
it's fine. It's fine. It's just, just once in a while, it gets my dander up and I have to say something, but it's very infrequent. I try not to pay attention to it.
that is good. I mean, we get comments like this all the time.
I'm
Again,
sure.
compared to the positive feedback, it's you can't even compare it. But us human beings, we tend to emphasize the negative more than the positive. I mean,
Well,
that's
I
right.
was doing a series of ju many years, like 12, 13 years ago, I was going to come out with a series of kettlebell swings with jumps. So you're swinging, and as the bell comes up, you're jumping, or you're doing split squats, or you're doing whatever. And I posted it, and there were people saying, "Idiot." And why are your feet leaving the floor? And it just really bad stuff. And I couldn't take it. I couldn't, and I took it down. And now people jumping with the kettlebell, and it's like brilliant. And
Great.
but I couldn't, look, it's about temperament. I didn't want to deal with it.
Yes,
The
I get
criticism.
that.
I was like, I can't, it brings me down. I can't, I was like, just forget it. I don't want it. I don't want.
Yes, you have to have in the kettlebell sphere, you have to have thick skin. It's especially
Yeah.
me going out saying the Turkish get up is a waste of time is like I this creates fire all the
I
time.
this
But
that but yeah, but still people are
I
gonna,
got
but
used to
still
it.
it's good for your viewership too, which
Oh,
is
of course.
a
But
good, which is
the
good.
point is here's the point. I don't just say exercise A is crap for the views. I say it
Right.
people always miss the nuance behind it. I say, listen, first of all, let's set it straight. This is for me and the way I teach it. So if you want to do the get up, fine, do it. If you enjoy it, awesome, because it's better than
Right.
not doing anything.
Right. Right.
Always, any movement, hula hoops, jumping up and down, laying on the floor, burpees. Fine, that's great.
Right.
I mean, the burpee is a powerful exercise. But
Yeah.
the the point I'm making is stop mystifying the get up and make it
Yeah.
look like you're getting additional benefits or unique benefits compared to the big rocks like swing, clean, jerk,
Totally. Oh,
snatch,
totally.
squat. You don't get it. Here, that's my point. I'd rather engage in jerk, swing, snatch, squat, press, row, lunge than in a
Totally.
get up because I get more bang for my buck with
I
these
agree.
exercises.
I
That
agree.
is my point. But the way the get up has been lifted to a pedestal, it's insane. Same with the swing. I think the swing is awesome. But here I am again with getting most bang for my buck. I incorporate the swing as well. But I think a snatch gives me even more because there's
Yeah.
more movement involved, right? And so this is where I come from. And when I got started, I was super like, oh my God, people are going insane. And now, having spent some time in that sphere, I'm like, yeah, I get it. It's fine.
Yeah. Yeah.
And
Yeah. You can roll with it.
and I'd like to get your take on because I have a very firm take on it, but I'd like to get yours. Influencer style training. How do you look, especially the kettlebell? I think it's completely the way they treat the kettlebell, it breaks my heart. But how how do you look at it? I mean, you see it on your feet as well, right?
Yeah.
What's your
Yeah,
take on it?
it's a lot of the same stuff. It's complexes, it's a lot of the same stuff regurgitated. And the better the person's body looks, the more feeds them. We all know that look, beauty sells, sex sells,
Mhm.
tits and ass, but it's okay. It's okay. I don't in a way, I wish I was 30 years younger and I was doing that stuff, showing that stuff too back in. I'm just at this point, it's fine. I love it all, and I don't pay much attention to it. If somebody's doing a really cool move or a really cool complex, I'll make a post or
Hmm.
I'll comment or I'll say something.
Hmm.
But
Hmm.
otherwise, it's like I
It's
do
not
see a
even the
lot of
comp.
stuff.
It's
What?
not even the complexes, Lorna. I appreciate the complexes too, but
Yeah,
sometimes you see stuff like the one move that currently is pervasive on social media with the kettlebell is, I don't know
yeah,
what they call it, the diamond, the X. It's like you grab the bell by the horns like this, and then you go around the body
like
like
a
this.
halo.
Yes, but a super massive halo. And the halo is also the king exercise, and it gives you the greatest abs
Yeah,
on planet
you
Earth. An
do 10
absolute
halos each side and
cor-
you'll get ripped abs. I'm like, I don't think so.
Ex- I don't think so too. But that's the
That,
point. So where
yeah,
there's so much stuff going on, what
yeah.
would you tell somebody who's a little bit younger and experienced, and now they see this stuff, and you standing out like a sore thumb, first of all, using a super heavy weight, right?
Yeah.
And doing a basic move and not just doing 25 different exercises all the time. So how would you help somebody navigate that landscape if they have I'm sure you get these questions like, Norna, what do you
I
think of
do.
these
I
moves?
do.
Right?
I'm like, well, people are very confused. But first of all, I love when a woman comes to me and they say they want to learn some kettlebell moves because it means they're not afraid of it. I don't put, with my training, I incorporate a lot of kettlebells, but if a woman doesn't want to do too much kettlebell work or they're not comfortable with swings, I really ease into it and I'll do everything else that's non-ballistic or non-swing
Mm, hmm.
based, but I'm
Hmm.
never going to claim that, marching with a kettlebell in one hand is going to give them ripped abs. So, it's got to be a full, it takes so much more than that. And
Hmm.
so I don't, fortunately with the women and men who come to me, they're a little more mature and
Mm,
most of them are already active and they've worked with trainers or they can cut through the nonsense and so most of the people who come to me are a little bit more educated on their movement vocabulary, so they're not necessarily following these young influencers. But yeah, you just have to laugh. It's
and would you, but here's the key, would you then go ahead and give a definitive, let's say, like, approval to a certain extent, because that's what people are asking from us all the time, because we are super in the beginner space. We help people who've never seen kettlebells before. We help people discover, of course we have also the people who have been using kettlebells for a long time or
yeah,
have in different camps, but we also get a lot of feedback like, what's going on, this is so, and it's pervasive in a certain sphere of the social media culture with kettlebells, right?
yeah,
Because and that's the key, right? The crazier you make the exercise look, the more benefits it apparently you're getting, right?
that's
Because
right.
that's how you
That's
sell
right.
it. And
That's
so
right.
how would you, don't you think it requires a certain, without, again, I'm not judging the people,
Yeah,
right?
yeah, yeah.
Sometimes they don't know better. Sometimes they know better and they act intentionally. That's another thing. But I don't care about this. I care about, listen, you're posting this in the public realm. I think it's crap. I'm going to share this with everybody. Then I'm not doing exercises like this. But again, I always leave the door open. If you want to do it, that's fine. But just like you
Yeah.
said, I don't think that a marching exercise or a halo will give me insane abs, or that a certain snatch with a lunge, with a turn, with a backflip will give me crazy GPP. So don't you think it is
Yeah.
important for professionals and elite athletes like you to take a stance and say, hey, listen, I don't think that makes sense?
No.
Hmm.
I don't, because then I'm going to get into the back. Like, I'm never going to be the person to post somebody else's post somebody else's video with me in the corner saying, no, you shouldn't do this, or here's why it doesn't work. That would be a whole realm of unending. I don't want to do that.
Because it's not
But
your style, right?
I
What you're saying.
will let people who know I exist, they want to come to me, they want to work with me, they want to ask me any questions, I will answer it. I will answer them.
Okay.
And
Yeah.
hopefully through my feed and seeing what I'm
Yes.
doing, even though I don't post as much as many other people, there's only so much time in the day, and in my I'm 60.
Mm-hmm.
And so at this point in my life, I have to really watch my time and my energy. And so
100%.
I'm just going to post
Mhm.
what's true to me. And if
Yeah.
somebody has a question about somebody else's work, I'll answer it. But
hmm
I'm not going to be the person to comment
hmm hmm Because it's not
on
your
other
style,
stuff
right? Yeah,
because
yeah,
it'll be
yeah.
an unending,
hmm
um, yeah,
hmm
it's not my style.
Yeah. And just like I told you before we got started, you look awesome for your
Thank
age.
you.
This is so inspiring because at a particular age, people just always
Yeah.
deflect responsibility to, well, I'm 45. What do you expect? Well, I'm
Or menopause or perimenopause or being a
oh yes,
woman or
yes,
being
yes,
like,
right?
come on, come on, come on. That
Cut it.
stuff bothers me too.
Here we go.
Is
See? Yeah,
even more
even
than
more.
nonsense
Yeah.
workouts is like, well, you're in perimenopause, so you should do this kind of workout and eat this way. No, nonsense. Stop it.
hmm hmm
Stop it. There's no menopause workout. If a man comes to me and says he has a headache, if a client comes to me and says he has a headache, we're either going to skip that session and reschedule, or I'm going to take down the intensity. If a woman comes to me and she didn't sleep last night because she had hot flashes, guess what we're going to do? We're going to take down the intensity. It's the same thing. We're going to take down the intent. I'm not going to go into my program and say, oh, let me look up a menopause workout for you today. There's no such thing. You work with the client's issue. Let's say they came in because they didn't sleep because this client is studying for his medical exams. So he didn't sleep. We're going to take down the intensity and the complexity.
Excellent.
Maybe we'll just stretch and do some yoga
Excellent.
poses and some plank holds because he didn't sleep well. Well,
Excellent.
this menopausal, premenopausal woman is having mood swings and she's, having some joint issues because of perimenopause or whatever she's going through as a woman. I understand that. But there's no menopause workout. So we're going to stretch, maybe do some yoga poses, and we're going to take it more gently. Humans are humans. I'm going to give you a program that day for how you're feeling that day. If we can't do the general program that I had planned because you have a certain symptom, then we're going to adjust because of that symptom, not because you're in perimenopause, not because you're in menopause, not because you're a woman. It's ridiculous. So you can see where I get excited.
Yeah, I love that. And here's the point, Lorna.
It's
It's
all
two.
marketing. It's all
Yeah, yeah,
marketing
yeah, yeah.
nonsense.
It's two.
Nonsense.
It's two things actually. So what I love how you framed it is I feel you. You might feel a certain repercussion of the situation you're currently in. I'm not saying it's non-existent. You might feel the joint pain due to
Right.
XYZ. However, that just means that we're either using less weight, cutting down the intensity, less ballistics. Your knees are yelling at you today. How about no
Right.
squats today? Easy, we're going to take it, right? So the point is, we are acknowledging the fact that it exists, but it's not that you can do now some mystical, special, unique
Right.
workout specifically for your situation, right?
Right. Right.
And
Right.
see, again, Lorna, that's why I think, and that's the second thing that I'm seeing is previously you said, and by the way, I changed that approach, which helped me because I was in a similar situation. I'm a loudmouth to a certain extent, which means
I
if I
love it.
see something I don't like, I'm going to say it. And I also talk about trainers. I talk about other people. I talk about Pavel. I
Good.
talk about
You could,
everybody. I talk
you
about
know what?
myself.
I'm gonna DM you and I'm gonna say this guy is posting crap content. Please, for
I
my sake, please do it.
Please do it.
Do it
I
for
get
me.
that all the time. I get that. It's like, please carry the torch for us, Gregory. Go ahead. So I'm doing this.
Exactly.
So the reason why I'm doing it is I can't fight the urge. It's just I realized, okay,
Good.
that's
Good
just
for
me.
you.
But
Good
the
for you.
point is, I'm not trying to be disrespectful. I'm not trying to spark no war.
No,
It's
but you
just,
have something to say.
but here's the major difference that I've realized a couple of months ago. And this was great. I got it from a marketer. He said, Gregory, how about you stop saying you should stop doing the exercise and you start saying, I stopped doing the exercise.
Of course.
Changes the whole perspective. So if I would see a reel with you in the corner, pointing up to the person doing a funny workout saying, guys, it's all fine and dandy, but I don't do stuff like this. I don't do the snatch like this. This is your perspective. And listening to a professional elite athlete giving their perspective, again, you sharing your perspective about the menopause stuff.
Yeah.
Hits way better than me because they say, you're a man, you don't understand.
That's right.
Right?
That's right.
So that's why I hunger for opinions of professional and elite athletes and elite coaches that exactly know what they're talking about. They know education based on training principles. They work with people. They cut through the BS. They understand the marketing. They can discern. These voices are needed, right? That's why,
That's a really good point, though, that you're making. And it takes away the person's defenses for the most part if they're going to, if you're right, if you say, in my experience, or the way I do it is a little different, and here's why. So, you're keeping the
changes the whole
conversation
game.
over and you're not attacking
Yes.
anyone. I think that's really smart. I really do. And,
I started this, and now I feel way better with my content because I stopped. Of course, in my teaching and in my coaching, and when we teach clients and work with them, of course, we say now you do blah 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 blah. Of course.
Sure.
And
But in
we
your
do things
content,
But in my content, I give them now my experience. And funny thing, I started a couple. I think the last month or 2 months ago, I started with an episode. I called it "The Worst Kettlebell Exercises on Planet Earth." and this really worked well. And the whole video, I have reels playing next to me saying, okay, so it looks like he's doing X, Y, and Z, which is fine. And I don't even use content is different. You go right, you want to hit. But at the end, I say, I do snatch, gorilla row, and jerk because I get more bang for my buck than trying to circle the kettlebell around my body and whatever, right? So that is the point of me giving my experience. Of course, I still get the comments. I still get think you're... Of course, the guy who knows it all tells everybody to blah, 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 blah. I don't care.
He's always there. He's always there watching.
Right? Exactly. But the point is giving your perspective, especially as a woman, which is so rarely heard, because again, what we see with the content from women and females, oftentimes is just again that typical influencer stuff.
Yeah.
And now, if they would hear from a wise, seasoned person who put in the work, you need this.
This is like what Rudinev said to me, years ago when he said the serious lifters lift 24 kg. And now Gregory's telling me, do some posts and say, well, what I would do. So I'm listening.
Exactly.
I'm writing it down, Gregory.
And it doesn't even have to be where you critique a video by somebody else. You can still say, so here I saw XYZ. So let me give you my take.
I like it. I think you're right, especially with that kettlebell ab stuff. Like, do this for 5 minutes a day and you'll get ripped abs.
My
like,
God.
Really?
I took this thing.
I'm still waiting.
I took this thing apart. Like, if you do 100 swings a day, you get blah, 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 blah. If you do 100 halos every day, who does 100 halos every day? What are you talking about? It makes no sense. But the final point that I'm trying to get across is especially... we have a lot of females in their 50s and 60s. And I have one client, her name is Astrid. She's a beast. I love her. She's has 4 kids, grandkids, 56 years old. She looks awesome. She's putting in, she doesn't care. She's ambitious. She puts in the work. And I told her, I told her, check out Lorna. And so she came back like a couple of days. She was like, she's doing 24s. I'm like, yeah, I told you. And she's like, this is insane. And she got so inspired by it.
Yeah, good. Oh,
And
that's
just
good.
in a recent group session, the guys that were around, she was using 16s and 18s, and they're like, they looked at her like, what are you doing? She's like, well, I'm putting in the work. They're like, yeah, but we don't know how many rounds there are. And then she says what we always say. She says, well, here's the thing. The first round is an extended warm-up. The second round, I feel comfortable, so I pick a heavy weight. In the third round, I maybe go a little bit lighter. And if there's a fourth round, I maybe go lighter or go heavy. Who cares? I'm like, that's what's up,
Awesome.
right?
More power to her.
And
More
and
power
that's
to her.
amen, right?
I want to see her in some of your reels. I want to see her.
Yes, I'm gonna let her know. Once the
I want to
podcast
see
up, I'm
her.
gonna send it over to her and say, listen, I talked to Lorna. She's just as awesome
Awesome.
as she's
I want to see her.
awesome. Great. Final point, and then we can wrap it up, Lorna. I really appreciate, first of all, appreciate your
This
time.
is so much fun.
This is such a great
We could
learning
talk, but there's so
experience.
much more we could talk about, and maybe another time.
100%, 100%. But the final point, because you mentioned this before we got started with the recording, it's one thing that a lot of people experience as they grow a little bit older and more seasoned, and that is joints and stuff.
Yeah.
You mentioned something about hip replacement. So,
Yeah, hip replacement. So very
exactly.
briefly, most people know that well, they don't know this part, but they know that I have hip replacements. But when I was in my teens, I started taking ballet. And every female, all of my friends in the class could do a split, just drop into a split, no warm up. I couldn't. I never had flexible hips. So I could maybe do a split after 20 minutes of warm up, but
Mm.
my sockets are set very high and I don't have big ranges of motion. That's why you'll never or rarely see me doing flows or like animal flow or things like that. I can do it, but I can't get deep to the floor the way most people can do, like Cossack squats. I can't do those. I don't have the room in my joint. It has nothing to do with stretching more. It's the joint. So given that, I have tight joints. So when I was in my, let's see, so I started doing my aerobics classes, starting running, everything was fine. And then I was doing kickboxing classes where you're hitting the heavy bag, hitting the heavy bag. And one day after a year of this class, I couldn't stretch. I couldn't internally rotate my left femur. It was like a wall. So long story short, I was stretching, 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 stretching. I wasn't a trainer at this point, so I didn't understand what it could possibly be. I finally got an MRI and an X-ray, and I was bone on bone. I had actually a labral fray. So the kickboxing damaged my labrum, which inhibited my ranges of motion from then on. And then I was almost bone on bone. And at age 47, the doctor said, you're going to need a hip replacement. Shocking to me, but I was like, okay, let's do it. So I went to a surgeon anyway, try to make it shorter. He's like, you're not in pain, so why am I going to do the surgery? Come back when you're in pain. I never had pain. Some people do, some people don't. Even though I was bone on bone, I was still running. I had a limp because my body was compensating. I couldn't do a squat without, I was squatting to a bench, but I was still tilting because my body was compensating because there was no room in the joint, but I didn't have pain. So I went back 3 years later and I said, I can't tie my shoelaces. I can't sit comfortably. He's like, okay, let's do the surgery. I would have done it right away, but anyway, live and learn. And then 7 years later, so I rehabbed, got back to kettlebell sport, no problem. And then 7 years later, I was getting the same kind of sensations on my right side, found a surgeon, had it done immediately. I was like, I'm not wasting time with this one, this side. So that's my hip replacement story. And then in the meantime, lots of people have come to me wanting to either get strong before their hip replacement or rehab after their hip replacement, after their physical therapy. So I created Hip Ease, which is an online self-guided course for active adults who want to either prepare or recover from hip replacement and get back to the activities that they love. So it's videos of me speaking about what to expect from the journey of hip replacement before and after, what to expect as you're healing, questions to ask your
That's
doctor, nutrition, what types of anesthesia are typically used, what different approaches surgeons might use, and what are the pros and cons of each. It's everything soup to nuts, including video exercises for every single level. So you have beginner level, intermediate, advanced, before the surgery, after the surgery. And then if somebody wants to work with me one-to-one, they can do that as well. And I'll take them through everything. So the course is everything that the surgeon or the physical therapist doesn't touch on. And there's a lot of information that they don't cover. What about mindset? What if you're afraid of surgery? What if you have doubts? What if you're scared? How do you handle all of that fear? It's all in my course.
Wow. Where can people find your course?
So it's Lorna Fit, lornafit.com. And inside the Lorna Fit site is Hip Ease. And they can also find me on Instagram,
Yes.
Lorna Kleidman.
Yes, of course. We're going to share all the links
Yep.
in the podcast
And then,
as well.
of course, if they want to work with me, regardless, they don't have to have a hip issue to work with me. But if they do have a hip issue, this is something
Great.
I've created over the past year, because a lot of people need this kind of guidance and they're not going to get it from their surgeon or their physical therapist.
And
Right.
do you also prep athletes?
Yes, absolutely.
Great.
Sure.
Because I told Astrid maybe one day for the IKO online competition, maybe with a 12, I'm gonna send her over to you because I told her I know some stuff about prep and competition, but the beautiful thing about having such a strong network of professionals is I'd rather refer out, say, work with Lorna, she's gonna push you through it, because it makes more sense because you're specialized and have more
Specialized,
insights
right.
than we have.
Exactly.
Yeah, exactly.
Especially with technique. A lot of my students with kettlebell sport come to me, not so much for programming. I can refer to a couple of coaches who do programming, but I work mostly with people with their technique,
Yeah,
which
awesome.
includes all of the mental elements and the breathing and we'll start wherever they are
Yes.
and they don't have to do a year of training. They come to me whenever they want. Maybe
Awesome.
they do a few
Yeah.
sessions and then they take a break and then they come back and then,
Yes.
you know,
A
so
couple of things that I've also realized is sometimes it's good when Astrid, for example, we taught her the ins and outs of the snatch, but also in our case, people come to train. So it's not always a technical masterclass, which
right.
it's not supposed to be. But it also makes sense sometimes that she has to hear it from somebody else.
Of course.
A similar sentiment, a similar fundamental explanation, then it's like, oh, now I finally get it. It's like, yeah, see, she told you or you heard it in a different
Right.
form, which just clicks. Sometimes stuff clicks later or earlier. Sometimes it clicks from somebody else. And I think what is also always a fascinating aspect is if you have somebody, because you are a rare breed, right? In your 60s, looking strong, snatching that way, being all in, discipline. I love it. So that's why that's a beacon of hope for a lot of women
Yeah,
in that age
that's
group. I
right.
was like, listen, this is possible, right? So how about you talk to people who are a little bit ahead of you, who
That's
can
right.
then give you some great insights.
Yep. I
This is
agree.
this is fascinating. So, Lorna, let's wrap it up. First of all, I appreciate it. This was an awesome and powerful learning experience, and I hope you had a great time as well.
Gregory, this is such a fun way to start. I just got back from Europe, so I'm so pleased to have
Oh,
done this and back home, and I'm going to start training now. And now I'm inspired by you. I'm going to get back to my training, and this was
awesome.
really a lovely conversation, and we touched on a lot of topics that are important, and I really appreciate you asking me. Thank you.
You're welcome. All right, ladies and gentlemen, so you've heard it, Lorna Kleidman, a legend, a rare breed. So you've heard all the reasons why you should get in contact with her. Of course, we have all the details in the description, all her links. You can find her. So don't forget to clean and press the like and subscribe, and we'll see you in the next podcast.
Thanks so much.